What's up, everybody, and welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Hope you're having yourselves a terrific morning this morning. I am having a good morning as my Arizona Diamondbacks are moving on in the postseason. So I have the opportunity of celebrating the Diamondbacks here this morning. Hopefully, you're getting to celebrate your teams as well. Whoever you had going in here, hopefully you're enjoying what's coming up here in the next round, as there were clean sweeps in every single wild card series. Now, the wild card series used to be not a series. It used to be one game, right? Catch fire on one game, move on. And then they added another wild card team and gave an opportunity to have these 3-game series where you can split 1-1, force that game 3, actually have a true series to decide who gets in to the next round of the postseason. And I think that's the great way to do it, because they play 162 games, and in 162 games you play series your whole season. You don't play one game here and there. So it only made sense to make a 3-game series. They did that, and we saw the Twins move forward as the Twins sweep the Jays, the Rangers sweep the Rays, the Diamondbacks sweep the Brewers, and the Phillies sweep the Marlins, as all 4 of those teams are moving on. So a lot of excitement coming up here. Papa Joe, you know, every Thursday is the PJ Takeover, so Papa Joe will be here with me inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin' to speak on Major League Baseball's Wild Card Series, the upcoming continuation of the playoffs in the ALDS and the NLDS, and those matchups that are coming up here, as well as taking a look back at our college football Week 5 picks and making our picks for Week 6, and taking a look at our NFL Week 4 picks and making our picks for Week 5 in the NFL, coming off of a lot of success here as far as our picks go these last couple weeks in the college football world. Going 11-6 and 10-0, PJ did. Mine 14-3 and 9-1. And in the NFL most recently, PJ going 9-7 and 10-6. And I'm going 11-5 and 10-6. So we're staying on the right side of things in our predictions and having some fun with it, obviously, here this morning and all throughout the week with you. We put up a bunch of polls as well, and y'all voted in those, and I appreciate them tremendously. And I'm going to look back on who you thought was going to win each of the series, and we'll see if you were right. So a lot of great stuff coming up here where sports meets life, and then we'll talk about the Jaguars to wrap up the show. Papa Joe, how we doing this morning?
Good morning, Daniel. Everything's fine. Just watching the baseball and see what's shaking down and what's happening next. I really wasn't too excited about any of these series, but I have comments on everything. So whenever you want to go at it, we'll go at it.
Yeah, let's jump into the series right away. I put up my predictions for the series. I had the Blue Jays over the Twins. I had the Rays over the Rangers, the Diamondbacks over the Brewers, and the Phillies over the Marlins. So I got half of those correct. And what I realized very quickly is I put up my predictions, and I've had people going crazy over the fact that I got anything wrong. So I didn't know, Papa Joe, but apparently you need to know this too. Unless you're 100% right on your predictions, you're always wrong. I guess that's how some people treat it. But let's go into the world of predictions and what you thought was going to happen and what actually happened in the wild card round.
Okay, well, let's start with the first series. The Texas sweep over Tampa Bay. Didn't look like the same old Tampa Bay that we saw all year long. Mad Tampa Bay used to manufacture runs by bunting and hit and run, home runs. They were a shell themselves. Don't understand that, but that's what the boomer says. That's why they play the game. So if you would ever think that Tampa Bay would lose Texas, you're wrong. Because Texas not only beat them, they only gave up 1 run in the 2 games. Of course, Corey Seager leads them with hit the first game. He had 4 bats, 2 hits. Evan Carter, who was another one of the rookies from them, was 2-2. Jordan Montgomery pitched 7 innings, 0 runs, 6 hits, struck out 5. what was extraordinary for that first game was that Tampa Bay was throwing the ball around the yard like it was a Little League team. They committed 4 errors. So, and a lot of those errors cost unearned runs, but it doesn't make any difference. When someone crosses the plate, it's a run. So I don't care if it's unearned or not. So they lose that first game 4-0, and that they had nothing. They had nothing for them. Nothing for Montgomery, who's a crafty lefty. The next day, on October 4th, Texas just killed him 7-1. Nothing for Montgomery, who's a crafty lefty. For the MVP. He had 4 bats, 2 hits. Jung was 3 hits and 4 bats. Evan Carter again, the rookie, hit a home run. First time a rookie's hit one in a series. Nathan Eovaldi went 6.2 innings, gave up 6 hits, 1 run, and struck out 8. So the big bad Tampa Bay guys was in a serious contention with Baltimore and the Yankees and Toronto and Boston. They didn't show up. Yeah. So, they didn't show up. So goodbye. Texas sweeps and they move on. Go to the next series. You get Minnesota at Toronto. This is another one. Where big, bad, vaunted hitting attack by Toronto was stifled by good pitching. And, you've heard me say it before. You win championships by pitching and defense. Well, Minnesota's on their way to at least trying to do that. The first game, a gentleman by the name of Royce Lewis, who I don't know who that is. Believe me, I don't. But anyway, he hit 2 home runs. That was enough for Minnesota to carry the first game 3-1. Toronto had nothing. Did nothing. Sometimes these managers are a little bit too smart for their own good. Snyder for Toronto, he's one of these analytic guys. I don't like analytics. I want to see it pure. I don't want you to read a computer and tell me what the hell is going to happen. I don't like that. Don't want to see it. But anyway, his pitcher Berrios was pulled early in the second game when actually Toronto was up 1-0. But anyway, Berrios was pitching his lights out, and so what this Snyder goes out there and he sees that he's reached a certain level and he's not comfortable with him doing that, so he's going to pull him. Well, even their own players didn't understand that. Now, when you're going against a pitcher like Sonny Gray, who pitched 5.5 innings, 0 runs, 6 Ks, Sonny Gray's tough to hit. So I understand what you're going to try to stay ahead of him, but it made no difference. It made little difference to me who was pitching that night because Sonny Gray was going to come out on top. But to pull Berrios in that situation, I didn't get it. On top of that, Toronto gets 1 run in 2 games, and they're one of the best hitting attacks in Major League Baseball with the 3, I like to call the 3 kids, Guerrilla, Biggio, and Bichette. You're not going to win. You're not going to win when you can't hit the ball. Yeah. So Toronto, they blew a bit, spit the bit. Go to the next series. You got Arizona, which was a big surprise. I got to say. Arizona beat the Milwaukee 6-3 the first game, led by Corbin Carroll, who was 3 at bats, 2 hits, 2 RBIs. Marte Moreno, 1 yard, good. They beat Corbin Burns, which was really important because Corbin Burns, along with Brandon Woodruff of Milwaukee, are their 2 best pitchers. So if you're beating Corbin Burns, that means you're going to have to try to come back with Woodruff to salvage the series. That didn't work because Woodruff wound up being hurt, so he couldn't pitch the second game. Arizona won 5-2. And Arizona was smart because they pitched their best pitcher, Zach Gallen. 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, struck out 4. He wasn't dominant, but he did what a number 1 pitcher is supposed to do for a team. Hold the other team less runs than you got. And he did it. Milwaukee had nothing. They scored 5 runs in 2 games against, frankly, an inferior team. But you can't win it. You can't win it if you don't say it. You got to do it. That's why the Boomer always says that's why they play the game. You got to do it. So I'm looking for, and of course, Milwaukee's one of my teams, our hometown team. I'm looking for Milwaukee to have a real clean house this winter. They got 2 All-Star pitchers. One's a Cy Young Award winner. Burns and Woodruff. I don't know if they're going to make it back or not. I can't remember which one signed an extension, but Greg Counsell's been their manager forever. He seems to get everything out of his players. One of the best players in baseball, Christian Yelich, has not been himself for 4 years probably. So let's give kudos to Zona for at least being competitive and completing the sweep, which is important. Of course, they can't use Gallen coming right back, but they'll use him. Probably in the second or third game. In a short 3-game series like this, if you have good pitching, like we saw from Minnesota, you're gonna win. You're gonna win.
Yeah.
All right. We got the other ones, Philly and Miami. Miami's another head case. No run, no hits. They just can't do anything. For some reason, some of these kids choke. That's a strong term, but they choke. Philly pounded out 11 hits in the first game. They won 4-1. Zach Wheeler, who's a stud himself, 6.2 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, struck out 8. Unhittable at time. Unhittable. The second game, Philly wins 7-1. Bryson Stott hits a grand slam. Aaron Nola pitches 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 3 Ks. Miami had no offense at all. And that's why is that? It's because it's good pitching. Wheeler and Nola shut them down. So, we just went over the 4 games, or the 4 sweeps.
Yeah.
And now you get into the crunch time, where what I call inferior teams will be going up against some better pitching and better hitting.
Well, let me stop you there for a second here. As we look at those games, right? As we look at those series, I thought the Blue Jays were going to put up more of a fight against the Twins, who came from the worst division in baseball, the AL Central, where everybody had a losing record except for Minnesota. I thought that Tampa, who was so close to winning the division with the Orioles, a couple games back, and could have been the number 1 team. Tampa was not far off from being the team that was the number 1 seed in the American League and had a bye and didn't have to play in these series. They could have been one of the top 2 teams that didn't have to play in this series. For them to be out so quickly. And so when we look at predictions and we look at who we thought we would win, I think it's easy to criticize somebody for being wrong on a prediction. But did you really think that the Blue Jays and the Rays were going to be this bad in their series, PJ? I think a lot of people are lying if they said Tampa was going to score 1 run in 2 games, or if they thought that the Blue Jays were going to be completely stifled, that they couldn't get anything going. The Blue Jays scored 1 run in 2 games as well. Between the Blue Jays and the Rays, coming from one of the most difficult divisions in baseball in the American League East, did you honestly believe that they were going to combine to score 2 runs in 4 combined games?
No, I didn't realize that, and I didn't think that was going to happen. One thing. If I go back to my charts that I explained to you last week about the average batting averages for the teams and ERAs for the teams, if you go back and look, it got Minnesota's ERA at 3.87, which is better than almost all of the teams that they played, or all the teams that are in the playoffs. So for them to pitch well didn't surprise me. What did surprise me is the other team that did very well at all. I mean, Toronto is a basher. They average 255 in hitting. They hit a lot of home runs. They do this, they do that. But you're dealing with kids. The 3 kids that I told you about are still young in their careers. Sometimes these kids don't answer the bell, and in this particular case, they didn't. Philly's ERA was less than Atlanta, who they're going to be playing next. So that one ought to be a good one. The only thing that I can say that it did surprise me is Arizona stifling Milwaukee. Arizona's ERA as a team was over 4.5, and you're not going to get very far with that. But it doesn't matter in a a short series where you can throw your big man, Gallen at least get one win in there. So to answer your question, Minnesota pitched better than Toronto did. That's an obvious. Toronto choked. That's the way I see it. Texas and Tampa Bay, same thing. The Texas has decent hitting. Well, they have good hitting and decent pitching. So Tampa Bay couldn't score any runs either. You're dealing with fragile egos when you're in this time of the year. That's why I don't like to get too involved with trying to prognosticate everything and handicap everything. I got to see what's happening. Then I got to see what the matchups are going to be for the next round. That way, I can keep interested and I can talk about what I know.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this and again, stifling to see the offense of the Tampa Bay Rays and the offense of the Toronto Blue Jays be so extremely quiet in this series. 2 runs over 4 total games combined. Toronto scores 1 run in their series, like I said. Tampa scores 1 in theirs. And the Texas Rangers, who were winning their division in the beginning of the season, and then Houston was, and then it was maybe Seattle, and then it went back to Texas, and then Houston ended up winning it down the stretch in the final week, and Texas had to play in the wild card round, and they came out striking. Texas scored 11 runs over Tampa's 1. And then you look at, what the Minnesota Twins were able to do. The Minnesota Twins didn't do much. Pitching and defense, like you mentioned, they didn't do much. They didn't have to score much. They scored 3 runs in the first game, 2 runs in the second. 5 over 2 games. That's it. The Phillies showing us more offense, but also showing us that defense, and Arizona showing us that defense. Evan Longoria, who used to be a Tampa Bay Ray, this man played out of his mind. Bases loaded, grabs a ball out of the air in game 1, snatches it away, and ends the inning when 1, if not 2 runs would have gone in. I mean, we talk about each of these series, and each of these series shows you defense. It shows you pitching. It shows you really good decision-making. And the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I might be the only person in America that picked them besides themselves, they're moving on. My D-backs looking really good. And now they have to play the Dodgers inside of their NL West division. The Phillies, they got to go back to their division and face the NL East in the Braves. Then we look at the Minnesota Twins, and the Minnesota Twins, as they advance themselves out, they got to play the winner of the AL West, which are the Houston Astros, and then we will see the Texas Rangers face off against the number 1 seeded Baltimore Orioles, West versus East, respectively. So each of these series, PJ, as these teams move on, this was an awesome start to everything. It's nail-biting. I'll tell you this, as an Arizona Diamondback fan since day 0, it was good to watch a postseason where I was involved. And, as a fan, it was good to watch a postseason where I was on the edge of my seat every single second, where I had the game on the whole time, where I was cautiously optimistic, nervous, trying to keep my cool. I love that part of it. So my question to you is, will you finally give the Diamondbacks a little bit of credit?
No. No, I do. I do give them credit.
Yeah.
Because they played well down the stretch. In midway during the season, I thought perhaps maybe they had a shot at getting to the playoffs. I just didn't think they were that strong, and they're really not that strong. But the fact is that they did what they had to do, and they pitched well, and they hit well, and they're going forward. I don't have a problem with that. The only problem they're going to have is that who they're going to face in the series from L.A. Now, when I did some research this morning, apparently none of the prognosticating pitchers have been named yet. Well, that's a little gamesmanship that goes on between the teams and the managers. They're going to wait till the last minute to spring something, and the other team is going to say, "Oh, we were going to prepare for him. We were prepared for someone else." So if Zona can still play the gamesmanship package a little bit better, they got a shot at this. But the only pitcher that's been named of the 4 games that will be playing is Clayton Kershaw. So the answer to your question is Zona's got to face Clayton Kershaw in L.A. So, whatever they did, hence, before, Wentz, whatever you want to say, you can forget about it because it's a whole new season starting in a couple of days.
Yeah, and that new season that's about to start here in baseball, we're going to discuss it right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. PJ and I bringing you the wild card as the Rangers, the Twins, the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies all move on, and they will have action coming up here very soon. This is a day off for baseball on your television sets for Thursday, October 5th, and Friday, October 6th. They're off as well. The series in the NL and ALDS will begin on Saturday, October 7th, as the Texas Rangers will be at the Baltimore Orioles at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. Then the Minnesota Twins at the Houston Astros at 4:45 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Philadelphia at Atlanta at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on TBS, and Arizona Diamondbacks at the Los Angeles Dodgers at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time on TBS. So Fox Sports 1 and TBS getting these games in the divisional series after we just saw ESPN and ABC carry the entire wild card. We'll be back right after this to carry you into the divisional series and speak on what we think will happen here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Appreciate you being here with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We got PJ here in the PJ Takeover on Thursdays as Papa Joe joins me for the entire broadcast to give his thoughts on the topics of the day that we're discussing. We got a lot of stuff to get into and a lot of things to unpack. PJ and I have been talking about the baseball world and getting into where things are when it comes to looking at the continuation of Major League Baseball's playoffs. I have had a fantastic time. By the grace of God, this has been so much fun to see my Diamondbacks personally in this thing and moving forward. You know, as a broadcaster, I'm an impartial broadcaster, so I don't pick my teams because I like them. I pick who I actually think is going to win. And the thing with the Arizona Diamondbacks is I think this is going to be a really, really difficult series. My heart wants them, every part of me wants them to win. I just think the Dodgers are going to be really tough. They've won the last 5 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks won 1 series against the Dodgers this season, and it was at the beginning of the season, so it's definitely going to be a difficult one. They finished double-digit games behind the Dodgers in the NL West, just like the Phillies did in the NL East behind the Braves, a significant amount of games behind them. And so, we shall see here. We know the Rangers and the Astros were fighting with each other to win their division. Now they're both still alive. The Phillies and the Braves in that same division, like I said, and Arizona and LA in the same division. Well, 2 out of those 3 series get to face off against each other. The Rangers and the Astros would have to win their series to face off against each other. And just like that, the American League East that we think is so strong over these last couple seasons, because they've shown to be, there's only one team left of the American League East, and that's the Baltimore Orioles. So, PJ, when you look at the field of these final 8 teams that are here, seeing 2 NL West teams, 2 NL East teams that get to face off against each other in the divisional series, and then you see the Twins coming from that really awful division record-wise this year in the AL Central, and then we see that the American League East only has 1 team left in the Orioles, but the Astros and the Rangers that have been fighting with each other all season are still alive. When you know that that's kind of the backdrop of the divisional rounds, what are your thoughts of these final 8 teams that are left?
Oh, I'm going to love to watch it, I'll tell you that. Texas, I've been looking on them, Texas and Astros all year because of their hitting and their pitching, of course. There are some areas that concern me. I know Minnesota is a better team than I give them credit for, but every time we have this conversation the last couple of years, is the central divisions of both leagues are terrible. Milwaukee somehow squeaked through against an inferior opponents in Chicago and Cincinnati. The Twins, I don't know, beat Cleveland by something like 15 games. The Twins are a legitimate baseball team, they're a legitimate contender, but they're not a winner, I don't think, in this particular format, as is Arizona. When you look at the teams that are playing, the ones that are playing have a good balance of hitting and pitching and good defense.
Yeah.
The Baltimore-Texas game is going to be just like that. Baltimore has better pitching than Texas. Texas has better hitting than Baltimore, but Baltimore, I think, is a better team. So, you're back and forth with that. The Twins and the Astros, on paper, the Astros should blow these guys right out, but they got to play the games. Minnesota got 2 exceptionally pitched games by their starting pitchers, and I expect those guys to come right back the first 2 games of that series. Atlanta and Philly, this is going to be a barn burner right here. There's going to be good pitching, but whoever wins this game is going to be slugging 10 home runs and driving in 20. These 2 guys are going to knock the cover off the ball. And whoever's last is fine. Whoever's got the deep bullpen to come in at the end of the game, who maybe can save a 9-8 game or 7-6 game, it's going to be fun to watch. And then there's Arizona against LA. This really doesn't look like it's a strong matchup, but Arizona deserves to be there because they beat Milwaukee, who was a better team, but it doesn't matter. In a short series, things happen, and things happen for a reason. So Arizona gets to face LA over there, facing Clayton Kershaw to start with, a very formidable task. So there are areas to talk about here One I'd like to talk about is Carlos Correa, the twin shortstop, who made a fantastic play yesterday by picking off Pedro Guerrero at second base. He somehow snagged the ball and reached around and grabbed Guerrero's foot before it hits the bag, and it was a great play by a super player. And, of course, he was with the Astros for years, and he was one of those guys that was accused of fixing the game, shall we say, or, trying to influence the game's ending, along with Bergman and Altuve and those guys over there. So I don't think that Carrera coming back to Houston and playing is going to be. Let's say he's not going to be welcome. Let's put it that way. So that's just one sidelight. There's other things going on, but these 4 games are going to be determined on the first couple of games of the series. And of course, the most important part is pitching. Who's going to start the game for Atlanta and Philly, Twins and Astros, Baltimore and Texas, and Arizona? Arizona can't start Gallen because he just won, and he's got to have at least 5 days rest. They're going to get 2 days rest. They're going to have to come in with a couple of guys. They may have to pitch by committee in order to beat Kershaw and the guys. So a lot to talk about. There's a lot of sidelights that we can get into, but this is the good part of a baseball season here. Yeah. It gets even better when these guys are done. Then we're down to 4 teams. So there's another little tidbit here that can be talked about too. This time of year, it's the weather. Now in LA, we have to worry about the weather. Texas, don't worry about the weather. Atlanta, no. Philly, the Twins, Baltimore, weather could be a problem here. It could be 50 degrees one day and raining, or it could be 70 degrees and not raining. So that's something to consider too. So when you look at the offenses of the teams and the starting pitchers, that's when we can put it together and see what's happening.
Yeah, and when you look at this, and like you said, when you talk about the weather and the things that are going on here, I mean, that is something to look to. It's something to pay attention to. Also something to pay attention to for the Arizona Diamondbacks was something that happened that I really hope does not affect this team as they move forward. But knowing that Gabriel Moreno got hit with a bat in the back of the head yesterday and he had to come out of the game, that's but the backswing having him leave the game here. Hopefully there's optimism that he'll be okay, that everything will be all right. Looking at some of the notes from here, he was removed in the 3rd inning of the Diamondbacks wild card series clinching win with a head injury. And so hopefully things will be okay. We know that Moreno obviously has been a big part of this team, a big part of this series as well. And so he went into the Diamondbacks clubhouse to be evaluated. General Manager Mike Hazen had optimism on his health, while manager Torey Lovello said that he's not currently in the concussion protocol. Hazen said, quote, "I've seen him. He looks okay now. The evaluation was he seemed to be doing okay. Obviously, they made the right call in taking him out of the game because we're never going to put him at any risk," end quote. So Hazen went on to say he had some dizziness when he came out of the game, but we'll see if it subsides as we go through the night and into tomorrow. Obviously, if he tests and has a concussion, we'll put him on the concussion IL, but that's not what I'm hearing right now. Time is going to tell now until tomorrow, end quote. So Moreno said, at the end during the game, I was starting to feel better. That's good news, end quote from him. So hopefully things will be okay. Herrera came in and did a good job, and obviously the team was able to close things out and get the victory here. So looking at what could happen from here, hopefully Moreno's going to be all right, and Herrera will be ready to go if need be, just like he was in this game. But, that's something to look at, kind of a freak moment there where the bat just came back and happened to hit him in the back of the head, but they did the right thing by taking him out, and my biggest thing is that he gets to play in the postseason, so hopefully things will be all right. I did put some polls up there, PJ, and I want to let people know this, since some people think I'm the only person that picked the Blue Jays in the entire planet. Asking the question, who do you think will win the AL wildcard series between the Twins and the Blue Jays? 64% of you picked the Blue Jays. 36% picked the Twins. In the Phillies-Marlins, 54.5% of you picked the Phillies. 45.5% picked the Marlins. In the Rays-Rangers, 100% of you picked the Tampa Bay Rays. Nobody in our Twitter poll, or X poll, picked the Rangers. And in the Diamondback series, 71.4% of you agreed with me and picked the Diamondbacks. 28.6% picked the Brewers. Now, I did put up another poll here, PJ, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. There's a couple polls that I put up here, and besides the ones about the divisional series themselves, and I wanted to get your take on it. I put up a poll about Aaron Boone and him being the Yankees manager moving forward here. Would you like to see Aaron Boone return as New York Yankees manager in 2024? 82.4% of the people said no. 17.6% said yes. What are your thoughts about Aaron Boone, and would you want to see him return as the Yankees manager?
Well, that's a good question. I can say the same thing about Craig Counsell from Milwaukee, too. Both of these guys I think, are on the fence. Aaron Boone he was a very good athlete when he was playing. His father was very good. His grandfather was very good. This guy comes from a baseball family. He's third generation ball player and manager. He knows what he's doing.